Hey there Guardians, welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while since I've posted any build videos, and that is purely because I've been in Onslaught grinding like everybody else, chasing those beautiful shiny weapons, hoping for the god rolls, and in short, getting shafted by RNG. So today I'm going to share with you one of my favourite builds to use in Onslaught. It has huge slaying capabilities, good survivability, and is all round good fun. And you can clear legend with it. Now you're going to notice a bit of a change in the way that I'm presenting this build in this video, and that's because there's so much information to understand with what's going on in these builds that I feel it prudent to actually get as much information across to you in the most concise form possible. Now, if you like this change, please drop a comment and give me your honest opinion. If you prefer me to go back to the old way, more than happy to do it. But with that said, let's jump in and get into the build. We're going to begin by taking a Arc Warlock using the Fallen Sunstar exotic helmet. Now, the intrinsic perk on the Fallen Sunstar is called Ionic Conductor, and this means that any ionic traces that we create will move to us faster and grant us additional ability energy. Now this is 25% each for grenade and melee energy and 30% to our class ability. Also, any nearby allies will receive 10% grenade, melee and class ability energy when you pick up an ionic trace. For our super, we're going to take the Chaos Reach. Now this is a single beam of arc energy that we can fire at enemies. If we score 7 hits, it will call down a bolt of lightning that jolts, and we can also cancel it early and recoup up to 30% of our super energy. The reason for Chaos Reach over Stormcaller is simply the single point DPS potential for tankier enemies such as the Sky Bombers and that damn Tormentor. For our abilities, we're going to take a Healing Rift, as we want to stay alive. We're going to take Ball Lightning Melee due to its range abilities, and we're going to take a Pulse Grenade for its out and out damage potential. Looking next to our aspects, we're going to begin with the Arc Soul, which means that when we use our class ability, i.e. our Rift, we will get our little Arc Buddy. Now our Arc Buddy lasts for 15 seconds and fires 3 shots per second, doing 60 damage each. However, when we're amplified, which we're going to be all the time thanks to our second aspect that we'll see in a moment, our Arc Buddy fires 5 shots at a time. The Arc Buddy is also granted to any of our allies that run through our Rift. For our second aspect, we're going to take the Electrostatic Mind, which means that Arc ability kills and any enemy that is affected by an Arc effect, be that blind, jolt, etc., when we kill that, it creates an ionic trace. Also, ionic traces will make us amplified. Looking next to our fragments, we're going to begin with Spark of Shock, which means that our arc grenades will jolt anything that they hit. And we're going to couple that with Spark of Ions, which means if we defeat a jolted target, we will create an ionic trace. Now this actually is a double dip with the Electrostatic Mind aspect, and we will get 2. However, there is a 10-second cooldown on Spark of Ion. Next, we're going to take Spark of Resistance, which means we gain a 25% bonus damage resistance while we're within 15 meters of 3 or more enemies, and in Onslaught, that's pretty much all the time. And then our final fragment is very much up to you. However, I would recommend Spark of Beacons, which means while we're amplified, our Arc Special Weapon Final Blows create a blinding explosion. And this just gives us an additional source of damage that plays into Electrostatic Mind for the ionic traces. However, you may want to swap this out for either Spark of Discharge, where Arc Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create an ionic trace, or for Spark of Magnitude, where our lingering arc grenades last longer. For your armour stats, you want to target 100 resilience for the 30% damage reduction, Second priority is discipline, where you want to have at least 80. Third priority, recovery, aim for 70 or higher. And strength is your fourth priority, and you want to be at least 50. Intellect and mobility have absolutely no bearing on this, just try to keep them above 30 so you don't suffer any penalties. Now, normally at this point I would be talking about seasonal artifact and maybe weapons. However, I'm going to change it up and move those to the end, as the weapons just complete the build and the seasonal artifact is the little cherry on top. Let's move on to mods, and we're going to begin on the helmet by taking a harmonic siphon, which means that because we're on an arc subclass, any arc weapon kills within 3.5 seconds of each other will spawn an orb of power. We're going to couple that with a strand siphon as well, so strand multi-kills will also generate orbs of power. And we're going to finish our helmet mods with an Ashes to Assets, which will grant between 1 and 5% super energy on a grenade kill, dependent on the level of the enemy. On our arms, we're going to begin with a bolstering detonation, which grants us 12% of our class ability energy when we cause damage with a grenade. There is a 7-second cooldown here, however. We're going to take an impact induction, where causing damage with our melee will grant us 12% to our grenade energy. And we're going to take a firepower, where final blows with our grenade will generate an orb of power. However, because we're only using one copy of this mod, there is a 10-second cooldown in between activations. On our chest, it is entirely dealer's choice. Use whatever damage resistance mods are applicable to the activity you're undertaking, i.e. whatever the threat is for the day that you're doing Onslaught. However, I have found it beneficial to slot in a charged up mod, which increases the amount of armour charge you can carry by 1. On our legs, we're going to begin with a recuperation, which returns 70 HP of health on an orb pickup. Next, we're going to take an elemental charge, which is a strange mod as it has a hidden internal meter in the game's code. And the way this works is when you pick up an ionic trace, it fills 33.3% of the meter. I.e., pick up 3 ionic traces, we will be granted an armour charge. And with the number of ionic traces we have flying around on this build, we're going to be filling up that internal meter very quickly. And then finally on our legs, we're going to take an arc weapon surge, which means while we have an armour charge, our arc weapons will gain a 10% damage boost. And then on our class item, we're going to begin by closing our ability loop, by which I mean we're going to take an outreach, and this gives us 12% melee energy when we use our class ability. We're then going to add in a powerful attraction, which will collect any orbs of power, or motes, within a 12.5 meter radius, and we're going to take a Reaper mod, where getting a kill with a weapon within 10 seconds of using our class ability will spawn an orb of power. However, there is a 10-second cooldown as we're only using one copy of this mod. Okay, now we're going to have a brand new section that I'm adding into my videos. And this is because a lot of people use the D2 armour picker when they're selecting their armour stats. However, not many people pay attention to how many mod slots are actually available. Therefore, they can't use the armour limitations section of D2 armour picker. So for those people, let's look at the available slots. On our helmet, we have used 7 slots, which means we've only 3 remaining. On our arms, we've also used 7 slots, so again there are only 3 remaining. On our chest, we've only used 3 in this build, the rest is dealer's choice, so you have 7 remaining. On our legs, again, we've used 7, leaving 3. And on our class item, we've used 6, which means there are 4 slots available. Right, let's move on to weapons. So, in your kinetic slot, I would strongly recommend the Rufus Fury with hatchlings. However, you can use any strand primary weapon. Recommended again with hatchling, but it isn't actually essential. For our energy weapon, there are 2 standout contenders, the first being the Indebted Kindness with Vault Shot, and the other being the Undercurrent Waveframe Grenade Launcher, also with Vault Shot. and Vault Shot is very, very strongly recommended here. You also want to ensure that your energy weapon uses special ammo. For a heavy, there is one standout option, which is the Thunderlord machine gun. This chains lightning on strikes, and if you have the catalyst, it refills ammo from reserves. However, you can take any arc heavy that you choose, completely up to you. So now we've made it to the cherry on top, the seasonal artifact, and there are only actually 6 perks we want on the artifact, the rest is completely up to you. So, from the top, we want anti-barrier sidearms, which gives, believe it or not, anti-barrier rounds to our sidearms. We also want unravelling orbs, where picking up an orb of power will grant our strand weapons unravelling rounds. And we want a Horde shuttle, where if we deal sufficient damage to an enemy that is unravelling, then we'll generate a threadling. Next we're going to take Torch, which means that when we're Radiant, we will gain a 5% damage boost against any enemy that is affected by a strand or stasis debuff. Now, although we have no way to make ourselves Radiant in this build, our allies can, and it's better to have this there than not. Next we're going to take Wished Into Being, which means when our super is more than 80% charged, an ability kill will spawn 3 orbs of power. However, there is a huge cooldown on this, it's so long no one actually knows how long it is. And the final perk we want is Dragon's Bite, which means if we break a combatant's shield with a strand or stasis weapon, strand weapons have a chance to suspend, and stasis weapons have a chance to freeze. Obviously in our case, suspend. Beauty of this build is the gameplay loop isn't actually a gameplay loop, it's an ability loop. And you can start at any point within this loop and it makes no difference. So, for example, you can throw a grenade, or, if you have Vault Shot active, use your special. That will jolt targets, it will also create an Ionic Trace. Pick up that Ionic Trace, you become amplified. Now your Arc Special weapon blinds. Also, because we picked up an Orb of Power, we now have Unravelling rounds. If we spray that around the enemies, and continue doing damage to them, that will generate threadlings, as well as having a chance to suspend if we break a shield. Multi-kills with our arc or our strand weapons generate more orbs. It just goes round and round and round. Plus, we have a secondary ability loop, where our grenade feeds into our class ability feeds into our melee, and our melee feeds into our grenade. You literally cannot play this gameplay loop wrong. So there you have it, Guardians. We've turned the Fallen Sunstar into an Arc and Strand death machine. Big shout out to Hoppy and Wiggletoe for helping me capture the footage for this video. If you're interested in more Destiny 2 chatter, feel free to join my Discord, there is a link down below. As always, there is also a dim link in the description. Let me know in the comments if you find the information being delivered here any better than normal. I'm happy to revert back to just showing you directly in game rather than with the overlays. Until next time, Guardians, whatever you're doing, I hope you have a fantastic day.